Hi, everyone. Welcome to today's webinar. We're going to give everyone just a few more seconds to settle in and join us, and then we'll begin. All right, we'll go ahead and get started today. Today, we're going to be talking about our latest release, Recast Software 5.4, and the investments we're making to help lead the way in patch and IT management. Before we jump into the content, I'll go over a little bit of housekeeping. Within the On24 platform window, you'll have some content that you can access for the 5.4 release, including our release notes. You'll have some downloadable assets. And then you'll also see a link for a new Recast Academy course that's going to be a training on the topics that we cover today. And I'll speak more about that at the end of the webinar, but make sure you use those resources in the content window. Also, we want you to interact with us. We have live chat, and we're going to have some polls throughout the webinar, and we're going to have a Q&A at the end. So you can be submitting your questions throughout the webinar, and then we'll address those at the closing. Then we also have a giveaway. So everyone who attends the webinar is going to be automatically entered into the giveaway. But if you submit questions throughout the webinar or your participation in the polls, for every entry or every submission, you'll get another entry in the giveaway. So we have 4 digital gift cards for that. And we'll announce those after the webinar. For our agenda today, we're going to go over the 5.4 release and show you what we released recently. And then we'll do a demo so that you can see it in action. And then we're going to go over our product roadmap, looking towards the future. We'll do the Q&A, and then we'll do our closing and giveaway. So joining me today, I have Amanda, who is our VP of Product. Marty, if you've been on our webinars before, I'm sure you've seen him. He's our Senior Manager of Solution Engineering. And then I'm Haley. I'm our Senior Product Marketing Manager. So at Recast, we really are here to empower IT at every endpoint. We have over 70,000 users of our tools in over 125 countries with a 4.9 review rating across all review sites. And the themes that we focus on are helping you defend against vulnerabilities, keeping your apps and your devices compliant, automating a lot of the maintenance and the tasks that go into keeping your environment secure so that you can avoid risk, automating your third-party patching, and then streamlining your privilege access control. So with that, I'll hand it over to Amanda, and she can talk about how we've released these themes.
Awesome. Thanks, Haley. All right, so this 5.4 release kind of focused on 3 different vectors for us. So first was around a series of performance enhancements that I'll talk about in a second. Then we had a couple of new product feature releases altogether, which we'll also highlight for you. And then also we had a pretty major launch for us, which is a new application that allows for patching. That is integrated with Recast Management Server, and we're super excited to show you that demo. That's the large piece that Marty's going to share today. But first, I'll touch on just these quick performance enhancements that we were able to do, largely based on the feedback from many of the customers using these tools. So under Recast Management Server, we spent some time improving sorting and filtering capabilities for different roles and permissions. Also worked on routes and agents to display more items, give you greater visibility, allow for greater change, just expedite the work that you're trying to do. Kiosk Manager got several updates, largely because we know those of you that have kiosks in your environment, obviously it's an all or nothing. You've got a ton of kiosks, or this isn't something that is super prevalent in your environment. For those that do, we really want to make sure that you're able to look at those different profiles in more meaningful ways. You're able to update and execute things in a quicker fashion, and then added expanded support for this tool as well. Under right-click tools, again, greater functionality around sorting, capabilities for dashboards, collections, and OU lists, and then also some new BitLocker notifications and dashboard improvements as well that we feel pretty excited about. Builder and Runner is our automation tool. If you have not used that particular part of the tool yet, Some really great things happening here around routes and actions, just being able to streamline that for more predictable outcomes that you might see if you're using that tool, things that will be a little bit more accessible for you. And then again, including a wider variety of input parameters so that folks can create larger strings of actions, things that are more responsive, all of those types of pieces for you. And then around our reporting tools and our warranty dashboard, we have several new installation and logging improvements. We've normalized some of the things that you might see from a data and information and output perspective, and then also just improving the general processing overall so that things go more quickly as you're using those tools. So some really great just general, as you're interacting with all of the tools across the Recast space, the ability to enhance the results that you're seeing, the speed with which things are happening, and really feel good about these performance enhancements that we've been able to deliver. All right, then we also had a couple of new features. So Windows recently changed their lapse functionality, and we needed to update ours in kind. So as such, we've seen some new improvements to how we deliver on Windows lapse. It's now fully functional with the updates that Microsoft has made, along with just including 80 lapse password tools, the ability to set the expiration, having both encrypted and unencrypted passwords, just some additional functionality for folks that are using that as well. And then entirely new to us is the ability to do software updates across both Intune managed and SCCM managed devices. So if you are in a co-managed state in your environment, where we were really focused on SCCM managed devices previously, you now should be able to view and perform software updates across those spaces if that is something that you utilize within your organization. We can identify and install missing updates and sources, and then we'll give you some tools and prompts for messaging if there's additional information we could gather if you engage with Recast Agent. So those are some of the pieces that you'll see that will be brand new functionality that you'll have within our products as a whole. All right. We do source a ton of the features and then also just the performance enhancements from feedback that we get. So we're just curious to know if you have made or upvoted a feature request on our feature request page on the Recast website. Looks like we have a small subset who have used it, and a number of folks who have visited the page or just have not even seen it. So we'll talk through where to find that later in the webinar. Awesome. Okay. All right, and then the biggest addition in 5.4, which we are so excited to bring to you, is that we have a new release of our tool Application Manager. It is built to streamline application management, third-party patching. We have the largest app catalog that you will find out on the market. So with Application Manager Enterprise, you'll see 2,500 plus applications within that space. So a very strong coverage of all the things that you may see in your ecosystem. Before this release, it was a standalone product with a smaller catalog. So we've been able to do a large expansion of catalog and then also integrate it with Recast Management Server. And then, we'll continue to build on those new capabilities, the expansion of the catalog, the integration across our products, all of those types of pieces will be things that we'll continue to expand on and bring to you in future releases as well. So super excited about this as it hits the market. Just to give you an idea of the patching tools and packages that exist across the Recast space, there are several options for you. So we do have Application Manager Standard, again, integrated with Recast Management Server, so it is fully integrated within our suite. Focused on MECM or Intune environments, but you do have to have an on-prem component with that RMS deployment. This one starts with a smaller list of applications. So this catalog focuses on the 400 to 500 kind of top applications we see customers use really frequently in their environments, but it's not quite as expansive as the other two options that you'll find here. Within Application Manager Enterprise, you'll see a significant expansion across the number of applications that we include. Again, the same environments and the same on-prem component that you will need for installation with RMS. But you'll see a much wider, broader breadth of applications that we're able to patch and manage for you. And then we also have, as a new addition to the portfolio, the Liquid Workspace. This one has the most expansive number of applications across. You will need an agent installed in order to consume Liquid Workspace, but it is environment agnostic. So this is one where you could use this within Microsoft environments, but also outside of Microsoft environments. And it has an on-prem and cloud component as well. So 3 really amazing options for folks based on what it is that your organization needs, the breadth and depth of things that you would want to make sure that you can take care of within your environment. And we offer you different packages to serve all of those. All right, and then just to give folks a little bit more, like when we say expanded catalog, what do we mean? So we wanted to give a quick overview of what some of the top applications that you'll see. This is not a comprehensive list. This is based on, we wanted to make sure that we were representing the top categories that you might need and then the top applications that sit underneath each of those. The other thing to note here is that we do have multiple versions of many of these applications. So even if you have not updated to the newest, latest, greatest version, we may have other versions for you and likely do within this app catalog. So what you'll see is this is a sample of the things that we include. And then several of these have different permutations. So as you use different things with your environment, you'll be able to use and consume Enterprise Application Manager and the catalog that has at its disposal. All right, and then I will pass off to Marty to give a demo. Oh, actually, sorry, Haley, I think I maybe skipped you for a second here.
No, that's fine. We were just going to do a poll. If you want to explain to them about matching their applications, you can take.
Yes, of course. Sorry, that was the one thing that I meant to mention. So if you, as we show that breadth of applications, one of the things that we do have the capability to do is if you're interested in sending us the list of applications that you use within your environment. So if you'd like to download from, Microsoft Config Manager, for example, the things that you're using, we can give you the cross-section of things that we cover. So we can give you, percentage-wise, we have coverage of 60% of the apps, 70% of the apps, 80% of the apps that you have in your environment. We're able to give those targeted figures for folks so that we're able to help you make better decisions around what tools might be right for you.
So take a moment for this poll, and then if you are interested, we can reach out to you after the webinar to initiate that. You can see your results. Okay, I still see a few more voting. All right, I'm going to go ahead and close it out. And then we'll hop into our demo with Marty.
Excellent. Thank you. Let me go ahead and I am going to share my screen, hopefully. Very good. Yeah. So we are going to talk, we'll talk a little bit about Application Manager. We'll probably spend most of our time looking at our new Application Manager. We'll also maybe just, if we get a chance, we'll take a look at a couple of updates that, other additional updates that we have. But let's talk about Application Manager. So probably the biggest thing that you're going to notice is that Application Manager is now part of the Recast Management Server. So if you are using a Recast Management Server, you can now do Application Manager right inside there. If you're not using a Recast Management Server, now's the time, right? So you can go ahead and update your third-party applications as well. So Application Manager is third-party application updates and third-party application patching. So one of the things that I think about when I think about Application Manager is kind of the idea of how Application Manager works is it's really set on how quickly can we get deployments out into the environment so that we're making sure that we're patched quickly so that we have the latest versions. We're not worried about any environmental problems, any vulnerabilities that might be out there. So in order to do that, what we actually do is we configure inside the Recast management server how you would like the applications to be created and how you would like the applications to be deployed so that you can actually just kind of set it and then let it run and let it do updates as it goes along. And we'll show just a second here what that looks like. So basically, if you want to create or add an application into your environment, there's kind of two ways that you can do that. The first one is, if you notice over here on the right-hand side, we've got these actions that say deploy right next to these applications on the left-hand side. So basically what I could do is I could search for an application. In this instance, we're going to search for Google Chrome. And when this comes up, if I want to go ahead and create what we call a deployment process for this, I can go ahead and click deploy, and it'll take me through a wizard to set up how I'd like these deployments to go out. The other thing that you can do is if you already have created deployment processes, you can also add applications right into those deployment processes. And we'll take a look at what that looks like right now. So essentially what you can do is in the same way that you can add an application in the other place, you can also add an application here if you would like it to use the same deployment process that you've already created. One of the things that I think might be what we might actually do as we're demoing this more is we're probably going to create deployment processes that are fast, maybe than this standard deployment process, and maybe a slower deployment process. And the fast deployment process would be something that we want to make sure that we get that out into the environment just as quickly as possible, because it's they have 0 days and we really want to get it out there, and generally it doesn't need a lot of testing. And then maybe you slow down for some other ones that need a little bit more testing and they'll need to look at a little bit more. Either way, you can always slow things down. Like I said, it's based on speed, but you can kind of slow things down, and I'll show you what that looks like in a second. In this deployment process that we have created here, we basically have it going out to 2 lists of rings that we are sending this out to. The first ring is our test ring. And if you look, we based everything on the release date of the update. So what we're doing with this application, where our first day, it's going to our test ring, and it's becoming available to the test ring. 1 day later, it is going to become required. Then we have it set so that we go ahead and wait. We give it a 2-day delay. And then the third day, our next group, which we also call a test ring, we're going to fix that so it looks more interesting. But imagine that being maybe your full deployment out to your whole environment. On that third day, again, it becomes available, and the fourth day becomes required. Now, you can choose a variety of days that you'd like to use if you need to extend some of these things. The other thing that you can also do, which I think becomes really interesting under our advanced section, is if you need to hit specific days, like for example, if you have a patch window maybe or a maintenance window that happens on a Tuesday night, you could make it so that the deadline would always be maybe client local time, and we're going to set it on, I think I said Tuesday night. We'll go ahead and set it on Tuesday night, and the local time will be 11. If I click this, I can get a clock. We'll do it at 11 p.m. Right? So now, no matter when this becomes available, the only time that the deadline's going to hit is during this time that I specified here. So it's, if you're trying to hit a maintenance window, you can absolutely do it that way so that you don't have to worry about it doing it at random times or however you'd like to do that. Other things that you can change, one of the things you're going to really notice as we go through some of these windows is that this is looking a lot like when you create an application and when you create a deployment inside of Config Manager. And there's no surprise really, because the reason it looks like you're creating an application and a deployment is because that's what it's actually doing. It is going to automatically create how you'd like the deployment, or how you'd like the application to look, and how you'd like the deployment to be sent out based on all the rules that you're setting here. So here's where we can set things like, how I'm looking at the deployment settings on this one that I selected. So I can set things like, how would I like it to be deployed? Do I want it to be required? Do I want it to be available? Or do I want it to be available with forced upgrade? Remember, these are going out to collections. So you can essentially, do you want it installed on anything that's in that collection? Would you like it to be available for any device that's in the collection? Or do you want it to be available, but if they have an earlier version, to force that upgrade to install? You can also set user notifications here as well, depending on how you'd like that deployment setting to go out. There's other settings that you can set as well, and this will look a little bit more at kind of how the application is created and what it's going to look like both in Config Manager and in your what am I trying to say? In your console and Software Center. That's what I was trying to say. So not only what it looks like in your console, but also what it looks like in Software Center. So you can say basically, hey, here's what I would like it to look like. If I want to add architecture on there, well, now it's given me example of what that is going to look like. So you can actually see what that additional architecture looks like. In advanced, you're going to see a bunch of different settings, again, of what it's actually, how it's going to work, the application is going to work inside Config Manager. So if you have a category that you'd like it to be put underneath, if you'd like a category that's in Software Center that you'd like to use, you can select a category. You can enter a description here, tell it you'd like it to be a featured app or not. And then you can also do it for what you would like, things like, are there additional installation parameters that you need for installation? Is there maybe a server that you want it to connect to that you can put as part of the installation command? Or is there a license key that you need to look at? You also are going to set things like, hey, where would I like this to actually go inside Config Manager? And which distribution points would you like it to go out to? We do that by distribution point group. So we just set it to all distribution points, but if you have an application that needs to go to certain distribution points, you can do that as well. There's also some, the ability for supersedence here. So you can set if you'd like it to do just the active, to supersede just the active previous versions, if you'd like it to supersede all previous versions, or even just the most recent previous version, you could do that as well. And then, oh yeah, these are all those things that you see as you're doing and building applications inside Config Manager, right? And creating deployments. Things like, are there any processes that need to be closed before installation? Do you want users logged in or not, and maximum or allowed runtime? So that's kind of where we set all of this stuff. Once you've completed that and hit save, we're going to go ahead and take a look at what it looks like in Config Manager in just a second. There's one other thing that I want to point out though as well, is that you can also set defaults for how you would like these to go out. So if you want to, first of all, this is where you're actually going to store your source applications. You can also set how you would like the deployment process to look, as well as deployments to look. So if you have a default that you'd like to use, you can absolutely set that way. Maybe you just want to make sure that all your deployments hit that maintenance window. You could set that as the default, and then you don't have to worry about setting it every single time with every single deployment. So it's kind of a nice way to make sure that we've got those defaults in there. Well, let's take a look at what it looks like in the Config Manager console. So I mentioned that we're doing this as applications, right? We're creating applications, and we're We're creating applications and we are creating deployments. So this is what actually underneath our application manager folder here, we've got all the different applications that we are managing in our environment. You can see that actually Google Chrome has had a few updates over the last couple of days, and that's why we have the number of versions that we have. But we have actually, with these updates, we have created, we've kind of got a couple of deployments that go out here. We've got our test ring, which gets our first deployment, and we've got our full deployment ring that gets and goes to the rest of our environment. The thing to notice that there's one of these that only still has that full deployment ring. The test ring is no longer available. And the reason is we actually are also able to clean up after ourselves as well. So when the full deployment ring, or when the test ring here became required, when it hit its required time, it essentially turned off or deleted the deployment to the test ring here to make sure that everything will get the newest version, right? So we don't want to leave multiple ones active of older versions. So once the new maintenance windows, or once the new deployment hits its required time, the older deployment to that same group is going to be removed. The other thing that we can do is that we can also do go ahead and move the status into a retired status. That way you're not going to have a whole, all of these active deployments that are going on. One of the things that also is being brought over from that full version into this version, which is coming even the next update, so you probably by the time you're looking at this, it'll already exist, is it has a wonderful feature where it can actually also clean up after itself as well. So if you notice, we only have 4 versions right here inside the config manager console. There were definitely more than 4 versions of Chrome that have come out. And since we set this up in essentially June is when we set this up. So during that time, as things are being retired and as things are no longer needed, those can be cleaned up as well. So it'll actually remove them from config manager, clear off all the space that they were taking in your, on your distribution points and things like that. And it can also clean up so that you no longer have that on in your source folder, so that you don't have 400 versions of Google Chrome because Google Chrome has updated itself 400 times in the last however long. So if you look, basically you're setting this and just kind of letting it update as things go along. Like I mentioned, we set this up in June and we just kind of let things go as they're going along. We haven't had to make any changes. And in fact, the only time that you'll need to go back here is if you, again, want to add additional applications or add additional deployment processes, or if you need to make changes to ones that you've already created. Essentially, you don't need to come back in here unless there's something you need to change, because it'll just continue to update those applications as you go along. Other thing that I always like to mention as well is that underneath the monitoring is where you're going to find information about these deployments. So we're using just the normal inside config manager way of doing deployments. It's being created, the application's being created, the deployment's being created, and it's hitting its deadlines and all that kind of stuff. So where you're actually going to be able to view information about your deployments is just under monitoring and deployments. And so you can see what's going on here and do whatever you need to do. One of the things that I really like also to show at this point is where where right-click tools and application manager kind of work together. So if you have right-click tools, you know that you can absolutely go in here, go into our client tool into Remote Software Center, and it'll ask you which devices you'd like to run this tool on. Well, if you potentially have an application that you want to install faster in your environment, or you need to move more quickly on than you were originally expecting, one of the things that you can do is absolutely go into Remote Software Center, and from here, you can go ahead and make these applications happen more quickly. So if you wanted to make sure that the brand newest version of Edge gets out onto a specific machine, for example, you could go ahead and grab whatever machine you wanted to go to, click install, and it's just like going into Software Center on the device itself and clicking install, and it's going to go ahead and start doing that installation right away. So you can actually kind of move things up to be a little bit faster. Excellent. So that's a little bit about how Application Manager works and how it integrates in with the Config Manager console as well. Now, I did tease there were a couple of different things that I was going to show about, a couple of things that I was going to show about some other new features inside that we added essentially here. This one is probably the biggest one that's near and dear to my heart. We talked about what Amanda talked about was we did some different things of ways that we could kind of actually sort things and the ways that we could do things. For those of you who have lots of agents that are connected and we're looking for specific agents, let me just do a little thing right here. So we could do some filtering. So if you're trying to look for a specific agent, you can now do some filtering on those agents and find specific agents that you're looking for. You can also, one of the things she mentioned was that you could do additional numbers here as well. So if you wanted to do 100 on one page, you can absolutely do that so you can get a better view of what is going on here as well. To get a little bit better view of what actually is in your environment as far as that goes as well. The last thing that I want to take a look at as well, one of the other things we mentioned, just looking at kiosk profiles. So we'll go real quick, just take a look there. I'm understanding we're getting quite a few questions that we'll have some time to answer in a little bit. But looking at Kiosk Manager and looking at kiosk profiles, as you're managing kiosk profiles, there's just two of them apparently in this environment, but they are going to be able to be alphabetized so that you don't have to search through. If you have a really long list, you don't have to search through a kind of random list of where those things are. So we are actually able to alphabetize these now as well. Well, if we've got a lot of questions, why don't we go ahead and stop with our demo here. We'll continue with our next part, and then we'll come back to those questions as well.
Thanks, Marty.
Yeah.
So now that he's, kind of shown you our new application manager, this is our last poll for today. If you're interested in getting a personalized tour of our new application management and vulnerability defense package, again, let us know here so that we can reach out to you and show it to you in more depth. All right, I'm about to close it out. Okay, so now we'll pass it back off to Amanda so she can talk about product roadmap. Amanda? I think it's just the audio. I can go ahead and take this slide. Amanda, I think she's going to log off and log back on. But when we think about, what we're building in general, there's really 4 pillars that we focus on. I mean, overarching, our goal again is to help IT teams visualize, protect, and deliver technology. And these 4 themes include helping you make proactive decisions. So things like building modern dashboards to deliver insights and enable, coordinated actions. Safeguarding your users and your devices. So really prioritizing security for efficient user and device protection. And then making sure you have flexibility across your environments. So building adaptable solutions for diverse and evolving operational landscapes. And then also making sure that things are purpose-built with reliability. So tailored features ensuring consistent and dependable performance and speed and security. Amanda, I see you're back.
I know, so sorry.
Perfect timing.
Let me unmute or move slides. So there we go. Apologies to everybody. I am visiting our team in Amsterdam, so I think I have a little bit of a lag with my response time. So apologies. Thanks for bearing with me. Yes, so thank you, Haley, for covering that. And just to give folks a little bit more in-depth view of this, you'll see the recently delivered things that we spoke about today. And then we've got some new things in development and some things that will come in the future. So we've got some new dashboards coming your way later this year. We'll also continue to expand the application patching and management for Intune and that functionality to be able to serve you in multiple environments. We're going to enable BitLocker retrieval for on-prem and cloud managed environments. So you'll continue to see us expand on pulling in information and allowing you to have flexibility across from just kind of a different deployment state and allowing you to continue to use the breadth of your tools in that way. And then, of course, we're always focused on continuing with speed and performance. Those are things that are really key to us, and we've made some pretty major adjustments in our stack over the last year to 2 years. And so continuing to improve upon how that's responding for you will be an ongoing focus for us. In the future, we'll blow out a bunch of those dashboards. We'll continue to offer some new pieces for you. The first one that you can expect is around warranty. So that will be the first piece later this year, and then to expand on some agent visibility, some general environmental health views, and some pieces like that we can provide for you. We're going to also look at authentication and expanding to Entra ID, so allowing you to authenticate in different ways. We'll continue along some self-service functionality within permissions and administration there so that you've got, again, continued flexibility. And then continuing to invest in agent enrollment over the internet. So our agent gateway will gain additional functionality and continue to serve you in that way. Where you can find this information is off of our website. So this is all available to you. Haley, I'm not sure if you already stated this and I missed it. Apologies. But it is on the website underneath resources and then under the support tab, and you'll see the public roadmap there. Within that space, we've got these views that will show you recently delivered in development and planned. We'll continue to migrate that and update that on a quarterly basis as we deliver new things. So you'll see that be pretty responsive to the things that have most recently been delivered to you. We also link key information from there. So things like release notes, if there's webinar content like this that we can give you for tools. We also will ask for some feedback on some upcoming things. So if you'd like a view at the dashboards, for example, and would like to give us feedback on that ahead of time, we'd love to engage you in that process. The other thing you'll see beneath that is that feature enhancement board. So you'll get to see that feature request piece that's directly beneath this roadmap view. And that's how we link those two things together. We really like to see that dynamic feedback from everyone in this group and be able to respond in kind.
Yes, I believe that's linked within the platform, within the webinar platform here. So you can view that public, roadmap, and everything she just mentioned will be found on there too.
Cool.
All right, let's hop into Q&A. Marty, I'll let you start off, and then you and Amanda can answer what we have. And if you have any other
Yeah,
questions, audience, submit them now.
excellent. Will do. I'm going to start from the oldest one, which would be the ones that came in first. And the first one's a roadmap question, Amanda. So all for you. Lapse passwords that are stored in Intune. I'm assuming that that's going to fit into that. Hey, we're looking at doing this in all different kinds of places.
Yeah,
Okay.
we sure are. So yes, that will come later. It is likely to be late this year, beginning of next, right? We've got some other things on tap before that, but you will see continued growth across that space. And we do want to continue to give you additional functionality with your Intune managed devices as well. So that's a ongoing focus for us. You'll see new iterations there. And lapse password is one of those things that we have on the list as well. Yep.
Awesome. Great. List of applications is the next question there. So interesting thing about the list of applications, because it is so dynamic and because we are adding things all the time and we are, kind of evaluating what is going to be best on there. Honestly, we do not and are not planning on publishing a specific list. The best way is to get that in from, kind of get us a list of what you have, and then we can go ahead and get that information back to you. Kind of like that poll that was going on earlier. So just to answer that question as well. Cool. So there was a question here. It says, in our environment, we have Recast, but it only works on our admin VLAN. In order to use Application Manager, would we need to make it available? Essentially, would Recast have to work on the other nodes? So here's actually, because we are creating applications and deploying them just using Config Manager, as long as you are able to create applications and deploy them across your environment, using Config Manager, it should work exactly the same way. We're not doing anything specific with right-click tools. The part where I showed you about the remote software center and things like that won't necessarily work the same way, because you can't do right-click tools across that. But you would be able to do that. You would be able to do the application part, because we just need to create the application, and then Config Manager takes care of it from there. Just a note, if you would like, we can also make it potentially so that right-click tools does work across different VLANs, and how you have things set up using some of our enterprise tools that we have. So if you would like some information about that, please feel free to reach out to us, do a customer support ticket, or reach out to your customer success manager, and they'd potentially be able to help you out with what that would look like. Is there a way to revert? Here's the next question. Is there a way to revert an update if users experience issues with the new version? I am so glad you asked. I clearly skipped over that as I was going through. So one of the things I didn't mention is that even if you're doing the complete cleanup, we always do keep 2 versions inside of the Recast, inside Config Manager. That way, if you need to go back a version, maybe your test group finds something that goes wrong, you could absolutely just either pause or cancel those the deployments that are going out, create an uninstalled deployment to whoever got that newer version, deploy that. Once those are removed, then you could go ahead to that earlier version and install that. So absolutely, there is a way to revert if users do experience issues. For Chrome, will the built-in auto update feature still install updates if the updates are being controlled through Application Manager? That is an excellent question. By default, so there's a little bit of difference where we're getting the applications from. The standard version, Chrome, will not do updates. It is actually set, so the Application Manager standard version does not have the updates enabled. the application manager enterprise with their supreme, whatever it is, with the big catalog, that would have application updates available. So it just kind of depends on the version of our catalog that you're getting the information from, actually. Are deployment processes limited per software, or can we have 5 different deployment processes for a single piece of software, which are for different device collections? I don't know the answer to that one. Amanda, do you happen to know the answer? Could we do multiple applications in different deployment processes? I'll have to test it.
Believe so, but I would like to test it as well.
Yeah.
With you on that one, but I believe so.
It makes complete sense
I'll
because
do some testing. Yeah, we can respond back on that one. I have not personally tried it and would love to before I say for sure that that's the case.
Yeah, we get what you mean and why you might need to do that. So we'll take a look and make sure. Is there a way you can set it so the latest version of the app is always available in System Center, set once, and the update keeps it updated? I'm not sure I completely understand, but essentially, once the new version becomes available, it's going to show up once you have an application available, it will show up in Software Center for that new version. So you could potentially do some things with timing so that you make the application either always available or have it be your deployment so that it's always available, or have it available and then a long time before it becomes required, potentially, is something you could do there. It looks like I'm using Config Manager to deploy software. Are we required to use Config Manager to get this accomplished? Thanks for asking this question. So there's a couple of pieces here to think about. The first one is what we did show you today was using Config Manager to deploy that software. That is the version that released with 5.4 and is available right now. Things that are coming relatively soon, there will also be an Intune component of this, so that we can do this in Intune as well. That is being worked on even as we speak, so that is also coming. And then if you are looking for something that's agnostic to Config Manager or Intune, both, that's where our Liquid platform would come in. Liquid kind of has its own, ability to do, it has its own agent. So essentially, it doesn't care if you're using Config Manager, it doesn't care if you're using Intune, as long as you have a Windows computer and a Mac computer and potentially a Linux computer coming soon as well, you can do those things. You don't necessarily need to have Config Manager or Intune to do that. Oh, here's a good question. Can the Recast management server be installed on the same server as your Config Manager, and what are the firewall requirements needed to download updates? So I'll take that as 2 questions. Can the Recast management server be installed on the same server as Config Manager? It can, but please, if you're installing a new Recast management server, there are a couple of things to think about there. We've updated what the specifications are required for a Recast management server on our website. So please check that out because you may not want to have both on the same thing if you have a big Config Manager environment that's really busy. The other thing to note there is we've done a lot of troubleshooting, right? I help out with the sales team right now, but we've done a lot of troubleshooting over our lives, right? And it always makes me feel more comfortable if the Recast management server's on another server. That way, if I do need to do a reboot, if I do need to do something to, whatever, the server, I can do it by itself, and I don't necessarily need to restart Config Manager, which may or may not be possible in your environment. Okay, that being said, the other question was, what are the firewall requirements needed to download updates? So essentially, the Recast management server will need to reach out to one URL that is on our side, and that is where the updates will come through. So we'll take care of all those other connections where we connect to Google and we're connecting to, so you don't need to have like 500 different uh, URLs that you're allowing. We'll essentially get one of those. And those are available on in our docs site. It's different depending on if you have the standard or if you have the premium or the enterprise as well. Another one about Application Manager publishing updates to Intune. It's coming, absolutely. Oh, for Application Manager, can we import our deployment processes from the legacy version of Application Manager into the new version of Application Manager? Excellent question. There are some things that we need to do in order to migrate from the legacy to the newer version if you're using legacy. So what I would say there is, if you want to migrate from one to the other, go ahead and open up a support ticket. We've got, they'll figure out, they know what processes to follow and what actually we need to do. And then we can help you get those new things set up. They're not necessarily going to just be like, click here and now it's set. There are some things that we'll need to do to make that work, but it's all documented and we can certainly help you out with that. What happens automatically when a new version of an application is released and added to the catalog? So that's an excellent question. So what happens, all the parts that are going to happen on the back end is essentially when a new version comes down, it's going to go ahead and create the application. It's going to download the files and put them in the source location that you've identified. It's going to create the application in Config Manager and distribute it to whatever distribution points you said you wanted it to go to. And then it's going to create the deployments based on the deployment process that you have it a part of. So all of that is going to automatically happen. And then because that's kind of the stuff that you need to make this all work, it essentially, as your deadlines start to hit, that new version then will become required on the devices that you've chosen. All right. Real quick, one other one. Does Recast automatically retire old versions? Do you have to do that through the console? You can, in the future version, it's not quite there yet, but when that comes out, you'll be able to do either one. So if you want to, you could leave the versions there and then you could manually remove them. Maybe if there's some specific versions that you want to keep for some reason. Or it can automatically retire and delete old versions as well, so that you don't have to, you don't have to do it manually. In our environment, we have it set up. We're on most of our environments set up with the legacy version right now, but what it's going to do will be the same. And essentially, what it's doing, if you look, we've done this since June. Think about how many times Chrome has updated itself since last June, and it's a lot. But we still only have the four most recent ones in there, and those have all come out with it just in the last week or so. So it will go ahead and remove. Let me flip through here. You all have some really good questions. Excellent. So, yeah, using right-click tools here, we'll start going up. Using right-click tools in Remote Software Center, software updates hangs on unknown quite often. Application tab populates immediately. I would definitely go ahead and create a ticket for that, and let's take a look and see exactly what's going on. There could be a couple of different reasons why it's not able to read software updates, but is able to read applications, and we just want to eliminate what those might be. Absolutely. Can we monitor application deployments without Application Manager? So where you're going to monitor the deployments, because we're using just the regular way that Config Manager deploys these things, is those are going to be right in the Config Manager console. So it all exists right there. Let's see. How about third-party patching for Mac or iOS? So right now, it's not going to be with what we're looking at with Application Manager. For more information, the Liquid platform is one that's going to be more interesting for you to look at if you're looking for third-party patching for Macintosh or iOS. So that is still us. So definitely still reach out to Recast Software. We can absolutely help you out. It wasn't what I showed you essentially today. Licensing. So licensing, again, go ahead and reach out to our, please go ahead and reach out to our sales team, or reach out to us to find out more about what the actual cost would be. Licensing itself is going to fall in kind of with how our other licensing works. So you can kind of think about it as per endpoint, essentially, is how that's going to work. And I don't think that's a secret that that's how we're doing this, essentially, is per endpoint. Is there a timeline of expected release dates for roadmap-ish features? There is a timeline that puts them in order. How's that? Is that all right, Amanda? Is that all right to say?
Yes, that's a great way to talk about that. So I'll just be candid. Some of our efforts go faster than we think, some go slower. So we try to be just very open and honest with you. And that's the reason that we have put that responsive dashboard on our website, right? We'll continue to update that in pretty real time to make sure that you have the most recent updates and then what's currently in development, and then also any updates to what's next, right? So you'll continue to see those lists move to the left. As we finish things, they go into the recently released catalog, and we start on the next set of things. So please, keep track of that site. That will be your best source of information to make sure that you are most keenly aware of what's up next for us.
Absolutely. And I was also going to say, as you think of things and features that you are looking for, we had a message earlier about feature requests, right? Or a poll about how many have actually seen the feature request page. That is an excellent place to, if you do find things that you'd like to be able to do, to go ahead and be like, hey, wouldn't it be great if this happened when I use the right-click tools? And probably we'll be like, yeah, that would be great. And then hopefully we can get that on the roadmap as well. All right, I think that's it for Q&A for right now. If there are any other questions that we didn't get to, we will attempt to get you those answers as soon as we can as well.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you all for joining us. I mean, we had over 40 questions, so we only got to maybe half of them. We will follow up with you to address all of those. Also, I had mentioned the Recast Academy at the beginning of the webinar. We do have a new course for Application Manager, which is what you just saw. It's linked as one of the resources within the platform. If you don't have an account yet, go ahead and sign up for that, because there's tons of courses to help you get the most out of your products. And we'll continue to add more courses for Application Manager as well. And giveaway, I know there's a ton of participation here. We'll be announcing the giveaway winners in a follow-up email. And then I saw Christian Kircher asked, will a recording of this event be available after? Yes, we will send you the recorded version of this too. So thank you again. Until next time, we'll have another webinar on Application Manager again soon. It's going to be like a big focus for us this year, so we're really excited about it. Thank you all.
Thanks, everyone.